beyond the issue of are we going to break any manifesto pledges, because they can't control expenditure. It keeps going up and up. Taxes persistently refuse to achieve as much in revenue as the tax rate rises promised. And if you look at the OBR and the IFS, all of their forecasts as to how much tax would actually be raised by all these more and more taxes being imposed have always overestimated how much tax will be raised. So it's just a factor of, OK, who are the people who are not going to vote for us that we can tax some more? And obviously with over half the nation actually net recipients of government, large S, the balance is, OK, well, let's raise income taxes, and it'll hit, well-off people the most, and a whole bunch of them will leave the country, joining the flood that's already gone, and the taxes won't go up, and they'll still be in the same bind as before.
On that point, not because what they did was they used taxes where they really couldn't control the variables, so VAT on private schools. Well, you'll get that money if this, if that, and if that, but you have no control. Income tax, you've got a more obvious, more tangible amount of money that you could raise. Should they have done that?
Well, if they do this, of course, there are various rates of income tax they could change, and who falls within the net, who falls outside the net. It's difficult for me to say this because I'm well off, but I always thought that both Conservative governments and Labour governments were wrong when they would boast about these people we've taken out of the tax net. They don't have to pay any more, because what you're doing is raising a nation of people who are concerned about their rights, not about their responsibilities. Nobody's got a stake in keeping taxes down. Keeping taxes down is what grows the economy, which is what makes everybody well off in future.
It's not well understood because of sort of the political rhetoric of the last decade, perhaps. But yes, completely lower income deciles pay less tax now than they did 15 years ago. Yes. The higher income deciles pay more. Now, that runs contrary to lots of the messaging that the Labour Party was putting across. Tax cuts for millionaires. Actually, millionaires pay more income tax than they have done for a long, long time.
Those that are left.
I wonder, though, is this a strange sort of effect? You talk about how raising taxes doesn't always get the same amount that you might expect. Is that a more dynamic effect on higher income people? What I mean to say is the richer you are, the more able you are to dodge it, to get accountants to move.
The more mobile you are. Absolutely. It's, in a parody of that statement, is first they came from the non-doms and they said, well, nobody likes non-doms, so let's tax the hell out of them. So then the non-doms leave, and then they say, well, we never liked those non-doms anyway, but so they don't get the taxes they thought. So they say, OK, now we'll do the millionaires and billionaires, and then they all leave. And then they say, well, we never liked them anyway, and it just goes round and round.
So supplementary to that is, if we're going to have this size of state, this largesse of spending from the Chancellor, is the only real way that she's going to raise this money by coming for the people who wouldn't consider themselves well off, the kind of people who can't have complicated tax arrangements, people who are in ordinary jobs.
You can't run away, basically.
Well, the easiest thing to do is to cut spending, of course, which you were all talking about earlier, about disability and what Zia Yusuf is doing and so forth. But say you're just incapable of getting rid of spending. The increased tax that least hits economic growth is consumption tax, which, by the way, even Margaret Thatcher raised consumption taxes. Is very often forgotten that was what the 284 economists were complaining about, that she raised taxes.
Cut income tax, raised consumption tax.
Yes, exactly. And it's not known very well that Britain has the narrowest bunch of products. Only about 50% of products and services get hit with VAT. It's the narrowest bunch in the whole of Europe. And a country that's done very well, Denmark, has the widest. Everything gets hit with VAT. Now, that, of course, would be very unpopular, but they're going to lose the next election anyway. So they might as well do something that will help the economy.
So you think raising VAT would be a wiser tax?
Well, having a wider bunch of products and services being hit with VAT.
I mean, if you did that, you could actually have a lower rate of VAT on more products and goods and services and raise more money.
But in the book that I've written, that's precisely what I recommend.
But then she'd break her manifesto promise.
But I say we got way beyond breaking of manifesto promises because we're in a mess. There is no money. People just refuse to understand that. And when you're in a household, if there is no money, you decide what you have to cut. You don't hope for more money coming in. You say, what are we not going to spend? And
was it a mistake then for her to say that she was not going to raise those 3 taxes?
Well, you won't get me dissing. I don't know. Yeah, well, I don't care what politicians say because they always have to take it back when reality smacks them in the face. It's what will actually happen, and they will keep on desperately raising taxes. They won't get the revenues they want. They'll raise taxes more. And eventually you've got to get to a Javier Milei moment or whatever, where somebody really says, now, actually, you've got to cut about 1/3 of all government spending.
Yeah.
That's what we need to do. Now that's going to mean enormous cuts everywhere. And not one party has yet stepped up to say this is what we've figured out and here's how we're going to do it.
Unfortunately, it did take Argentina 9 sovereign debt defaults to get to the point where they did elect Javier Milei. I hope we don't need to suffer that same fate here before we get ours.
On that basis, everybody keeps saying, well, we won't have to have a Javier Milei moment because we'll have an IMF moment before that. The IMF will come in and force us to do things. Well, guess what? The word out of Washington is the IMF doesn't give a tinker's cuss about little old Britain. They're saying, you're on your own, mates. We've got other problems to sort out. We're not going to give you any money, just so that when the IMF moment comes, that won't do us any good at all. We'll have to move on to the Javier Milei moment, and it hasn't happened
It's
yet.
extraordinary, isn't it? There's no money. There's no money to go around, and yet we're giving away BMWs to benefit claimants.
Yes.
We're giving 500 quid to a sexual assaulting migrant. I mean, there is so much money for where the public probably doesn't want the money to be spent, and then everyone's being squeezed for it all. I mean, make it make sense.
It's baffling.
It's terrible, terrible. It's a big black hole, and Rachel Reeves is falling into it. But thank you very much to GB News' political editor Christopher Hope and also Conservative Lord Moynihan.